Hey everyone, Scorpius here. Today we're diving into what might be one of the most impressive builds in Path of Exile 2 right now, the attribute stacking build. We're talking incredibly fast and satisfying, devastatingly powerful, but very expensive. Now I know that we covered the Mercenary Gemling version of this build before, but today we're switching things up with the Invoker Monk. I'll walk you through everything you need to know, the abilities and their essential support gems, must-have gear, the optimal ascendancy, and passive skill choices. Plus, I'm gonna break down the key differences I found between the Monk and the Mercenary's attribute stacking build. But before we get into all of that, imagine playing Path of Exile 2 on your phone, whether it's to level up a new character, farm currency, or stay in the game to sell your items. Well, it's now possible, and that's exactly what I've been doing, thanks to today's sponsor, Awesome. Awesome lets you remotely connect to your PC from your phone anytime, anywhere. Whether you're at work, lounging in bed, or out and about, you'll have complete control of your PC to do whatever you need. And it's not just for gaming. You can browse the web, transfer files, print remotely, or mirror your screen. All completely free. Upgrade to their Pro version for even more functionality, like remote CMD and controlling your Android devices. But my favorite feature, and the one I've been using the most, is their game package. This lets you access all of your PC games directly on your phone with zero lag, stuttering, or FPS drops. You can adjust mouse speed, customize keyboard layouts, and even use their drag type for WASD movement. Personally, I use Awesome to keep my character online to sell items or knock out low-tier maps for farming, all while I'm not even home. The first 200 subscribers who use the code Scorpius will get a 7-day free trial of the game package, which includes everything you need to take your gaming mobile. And getting started is simple. Follow the first link in the description to sign up. Click the second link to redeem code Scorpius for your 7-day trial. Download Awesome Remote on your PC, log in, and bind your device. Go to Settings, Security, and set an independent password. Finally, download the app on your phone, log in, select your device, type the password, and enjoy full access to your PC. Seriously, give it a try. You won't believe how smooth it is. And big thanks to Awesome for sponsoring this video. Okay, so what's the point of this build? The core concept of this Monk build mirrors the Gemling legionnaires. It's all about stacking those attributes to the moon. By default, each attribute gives you some nice basic bonuses. For example, dexterity provides accuracy rating. Intelligence grants mana, and strength adds health. And with some specific gear pieces that we're going to cover in a bit, these attributes become even better. Dexterity starts boosting your attack speed, intelligence amplifies your lightning damage and area of effect, and strength enhances your weapon damage. What I have found that works best for me is maintaining a balance between all three attributes. I keep each attribute within roughly 20% of each other. For example, if my intelligence is at 400, then I will keep dexterity at 320, which is 20% lower than intelligence. And then strength will follow up at around 256, which is also 20% lower than dexterity. Since we already have a lot of attack speed from dexterity itself and other nodes from our tree, I prefer getting a little bit more intelligence for the extra damage and area of effect. But which one you prioritize more is completely up to you. Personally, I go for intelligence first, dexterity second, strength third. This 20% split isn't a strict rule you need to follow, but it's a solid guideline to keep your attributes well balanced and your build running smoothly. So with that being said, let's begin with the gear. On the helmet, you want to look for as much energy shield as you can. We want maximum mana, as much intelligence as you can find, and 1 or 2 high resistances. Rarity is not mandatory here. If you can find one with either another resistance or another attribute, then it would be definitely better. On the chest, we focus to get as much evasion and energy shield as we can, because we also run Lead Me Through Grace, so this piece is our prime way of getting spirit to run our auras. We then want more intelligence and as much resistance as you can find. On the boots, we want similar things. Evasion, energy shield, as well as either dexterity or intelligence, and as much resistance as you can to get closer to capping them. Movement speed here is also recommended, but if you feel that your mobility is enough with Tempest Flurry, then you don't need it here. The belt can provide you with extra attributes like strength or intelligence, as well as maximum mana and some more resistances. The weapon and the gloves, on the other hand, have to be very specific uniques. The weapon has to be the Pillar of the Cage God. You can definitely purchase a standard pillar for the cheapest price, but you can also look for a 3-socketed one or a corrupted version with higher numbers or more stats. The gloves should be the Hand of Wisdom and Action. These gloves are the second piece in the puzzle of this build that complement our weapon. Once again, going for the cheapest version will definitely help you start the build, however looking for higher stats and more sockets would help even more. Lastly, we have the rings and the amulet. Both rings can have cold damage, evasion rating, attributes such as intelligence on it, as well as elemental resistance if you need to cap them further. It will also be good if you can find one of the rings to add some fire damage on it as well, as we will need that fire to trigger ignite on our bell, leading it to deal even more damage. On the amulet, we want energy shield, max mana, and as much attribute stats as you can possibly find. For anointment on the amulet, you have a lot of solid options. If you need more defenses and your helmet has high energy shield, then you can go for Subterfuge Mask. If not, or you prefer the more offensive approach, Deep Trance is the go-to option for more damage, with Blurred Motion as its second and also amazing offensive alternative too. So that right there is the first set that you can go for, and this is the cheaper or more budget-friendly option. The second set includes a few extra uniques and some upgrades that definitely cost a lot more. Firstly, we've got the Ingenuity Belt. Anything above 70% is definitely worth investing in depending on your budget. This is an essential belt for this build as it will directly increase your stats based on your rings. We then have the Warrior Invictus Regalia chest piece, which is another significant improvement in the build. Increased attributes is a must on it, and the second modifier could be either global defenses to help you survive more, elemental resistance in case you're not capped, or even spirit if you need more of it. Finding a Regalia chest piece with 5 sockets would be ideal because all the bonus stats from the chest stack based on how many sockets you got on it. Then we've got the Astra Mentis Amulet, which is the most expensive piece in this gear set that gives you over 100 to all attributes. Last time I checked, the cheapest one was over 150 divine. Regarding the runes on both of the sets, you want to either go for increased armor, evasion, and energy shield on all items, elemental resistance on all items, or split them accordingly in case you're not capped with the resistances. On the weapon, you want to use the attack speed soul cores. Moving on, we've got our abilities, and straight off the bat, let's start with Tempest Flurry, our main movement and attacking ability. We want to support Tempest Flurry with Martial Tempo for more speed, Primal Armament for more elemental damage, Crescendo for an additional strike at the end of its combo, Inspiration to reduce the mana cost, and Ice Bite for more cold damage after freezing enemies. A very good tip for you to note for Tempest Flurry is that you don't need it to be high level to make it work. Even as low as level 6, 7 or 8 would be just fine with damage and explosions. The reason why we would like to reduce that is because of mana. Anything above level 10, I found that it drained my mana extremely fast, even with Inspiration on it. So having it around level 6 or 8 would be ideal, but you should definitely experiment with it in your hideout to see which one fits you better. Next, we've got Charge Staff, which is there to empower our Tempest Flurry further, with more damage and range. We want to support this one with Persistence for more duration, Overcharge to increase the shock magnitude, Perpetual Charge for the chance to not remove charges when used, and Execute, which will deal 40% more damage to enemies below 35% health. And our third main active ability is Tempest Bell. This is our primary damage dealing ability for bosses and harder rares. The bell needs concentrated effect for more damage, overabundance so we can use 2 bells at the same time, elemental focus for more elemental damage, and close combat for even more damage to enemies closer to the bell. A great tip for Tempest Bell is that it resonates more damage for each elemental ailment it gets hit with, so that's chill, freeze, shock, electrocute, and even ignite. Due to the cold damage of the rings that we saw before, and of course Tempest Flurry, we already apply some of these ailments. However, remember we want our weapon or at least one of the 2 rings to have some fire damage on them so we can be able to trigger ignite, which will further enhance the bell. These are the 3 main active abilities that we need to use and press. Everything else are auras. 3 damage dealing ones, 2 offensive ones, and of course Combat Frenzy, which generates power charges when we also use Resonance in our passive tree. On Combat Frenzy, we want to run Profusion and Clarity. Cast on Shock is one of our high damage dealing auras that is almost mandatory for boss fights. This is an aura that allows a spell to be triggered automatically with the energy that you store. And for this build, we've chosen Eye of Winter as the main ability on Cast on Shock. With every monster you kill, you store energy, and when the energy hits max, Eye of Winter will be triggered. This ability fires a ball of ice with multiple projectiles flying around hitting enemies, dealing damage and inflict critical weakness, which is exactly what we want applied on the boss. Once critical weakness is on our target, we will start stacking critical hit chance, stacking up to 20 times, which helps us completely melt bosses. The support gems we want on this are Chain, Energy Retention, and Impetus, all of which will help us produce it faster and stronger. A very quick tip for this one as well is that you want to add a level 13 Eye of Winter on your cast on Shock instead of the max, otherwise it will completely drain your mana. Next, we've got Herald of Ice and Thunder. These two heralds are here for mapping, and the way we use the support gems on them is so they can trigger each other out and create those cool explosions that we want. To be able to do that, we want Ambush, Cold Infusion, Glaciation, and Lightning Mastery on Herald of Thunder, and Lightning Infusion, Long Shot, Conduction, and Cold Mastery on Herald of Ice. Lastly, we've got Grim Feast with no support gems, as we only need it to store additional energy shield when mapping, and Wind Dancer with Blind and Maim for the CC, and Unbreakable for a 200% increase in stun threshold. Next up, let's take a look at the skill tree, starting off with the Ascendancy. In this video guide, we're talking about Invoker, so what I went for is Sunder my enemies, Lead me through grace for the Spirit, I am the Blizzard, and I am the Thunder for the damage. The remaining of the tree, you're going to notice that I do have a lot of defensive options, but if you don't like those options and you want the Ascendancy to help you with the defenses, or you're struggling a little bit defensively, you can remove one of these two, preferably I am Thunder, and just go for and protect me from harm. This will definitely help you with more tankiness and more survivability. But the remaining tree, you're going to notice, is very similar to all the other attribute stacking builds. We're making our way all the way down to the star, we're getting Falcon Technique as well, and all the way up here for the intelligent nodes and the extra jewels. We then have our resonance and a lot of other crit nodes, but what else I did different to this monk is I got some more defenses, a lot of energy shield stuff here and evasion to help me survive even more. And as you will notice, I try to get as many jewel sockets as I possibly can. If you can only afford normal jewels, then you want to get at least one ruby with +1 rage on melee hit, as this jewel is the main reason we didn't add the support gem called Rage on our Tempest Flurry. You then want to occupy the remaining slots with things like recover mana on kill and max energy shield. If you can afford the better jewels, however, then we have a few great options. The Against the Darkness jewel is a unique jewel that will increase a bunch of attributes based on how large the radius of the jewel is. Here you want to focus on getting increased strength, intelligence, or dexterity in a large radius and add this jewel in the anti-slot over resonance. A much more expensive alternative to this is to get the From Nothing jewel for resonance, which will then allow you to pick them up without being connected to those passives. Next, you want to look for the Controlled Metamorphosis with the smallest negative stats possible, and try to find one with a massive ring. You want to add this jewel at the very top of our skill tree so you can get Pure Power, Lightning Quick, and Drenched. Just this jewel is going to provide you with so much more damage than before. Lastly, you can also look for the Heroic Tragedy jewel with the Verona line on it, which you will then add at the very bottom of the skill tree so you can pick up Circular Teachings, which will make you even tankier. So with gear, abilities, skill tree, and jewels out of the way, the only thing left is to understand the pros and cons of the Monk in comparison to the Mercenary for this build. Monk's Ascendancy gives us easy access to Spirit through Lead Me Through Grace, something which Mercenaries need to look for in their gear. Sunder my enemies is also a huge damage boost through Monk's Ascendancy. I'm the Blizzard gives us cold damage, which means that it's not mandatory to have cold damage on our gear. Monk's build has the potential to be extremely tankier than the Mercenary with the Verona jewel that we said before, and or specking into Protect Me from Harm. However, the biggest con the Monks have compared to the Gemling build is the overall attribute stats. Although Monks are incredibly sufficient and viable for this build, the Gemling Legionnaire's Ascendancy doubles all attributes, which is a significant difference in performance, especially in the higher endgame. Let me know how the attribute stacking Monk feels and what is your overall budget putting together this build. Both Merc and Monk have their pros and cons with this build, and I personally enjoy them both. Merc feels more natural with this build, but Monk feels safer. So let me know which one you prefer and why. If this guide helped you out in any way, you can consider supporting the channel by liking this video and subscribing to the channel to stay tuned for more content like this one. If you have any additional questions for this build or feedback you want to share, then make sure that you leave a comment below, and as always, I'm going to reply to each and every one of you. Thank you for the incredible support and for watching this video. Here are 2 more guides that you might enjoy. See you on the next one. Peace.